Yeah. So my Java interview went horrible. Nothing's worse. Nothing's worse than being asked how, like, which version of the language you're using, and they asked me about how do you compile Java and how do you run it, and what is JRE, JDK, JVM, all those things, which I didn't really know a lot about. So that's bad. All right. So yeah, what should we? Today I'm gonna be talking about web security, agentic AI partner and perhaps like those agentic partners are becoming wild. Like, I don't know. I don't really think that you need an AI partner in Burp Suite, but whatever. So yeah, I want to talk about web vulnerabilities, and I want to review some of the CVEs, common vulnerabilities that came out recently. So let's start with the easiest, SQL injection. Um, yeah, as you can see, in an SQL injection attack, the attacker inputs a malicious SQL script, which gets inputted into the application side query, and then this malicious query is now executed. So in this case, select name, description from products username or category equals gifts. This is a union attack. Union, this is a normal part of the query, selecting products based on the category, but then you union it with users database with users table, and yeah, users table, and you basically also select usernames and passwords from the users table. There are a couple of things to know, like how does union work. How does union work? Union is a compiler of two or more select queries. So union is used to combine the results of two or more select queries into a single result set. Row combination, it stacks the results vertically, like appending rows. Returns all the distinct names. Yeah. Duplicate handling. So union removes duplicates by default. If you want to keep duplicates, you use union all. Number of columns, and their data types must match in all queries. For example, in both queries must return the same number of columns with compatible types. int with big int, varchar with text, and so on. Column names of result. Column names of the final result are taken from the first select. If you want sorting, use order by at the very end, not inside the individual queries. Okay, in short, union merges multiple query results and removes duplicates. Union all keeps them all. So union will stack queries, will stack columns on top of each other. So you have, so let's say you have 3 columns from one table and another 3 from a second table, and you basically those are put on top of each other. So what's the problem with union attack? In union attack, you need to make sure that in the output you have the same amount of columns and same data types. Same data types like int, like first column from first table, if it's int, the second table's column should be int also. And same with text, and ints go hand in hand with big int and varchar. So yeah, SQL, what is SQL? There's a small video about it. Successful SQL injection can steal passwords, card details, other user information. How do you detect SQL vulnerabilities? Single quote characters. Obviously, inputting a single quote will make an SQL error inside the query. So this could be used to detect. If you look for errors or some kind of anomalies, some SQL specific syntax that evaluates to the base value of entry point and to different system difference Boolean conditions such as 1 equals 1 or 1 equals 2, and look for differences in the application's responses. Payloads designed to trigger time delays when executed with SQL query, and look for differences. OS payloads. This is, I guess this is out of bounds network interaction. Yeah, in different parts of the query, in update statement, in insert statement, select statement in order by common locations, SQL injection examples. You can retrieve hidden data, you can subvert app logic, you can use union attacks, blind SQL. So those are types of SQL injection attacks. Retrieving hidden data, subverting application logic, blind SQL injection, second order SQL injection. First order SQL injection occurs when application processes user input from an HTTP request and incorporates the input into a SQL query in an unsafe way. And second order SQL injection when an application takes user input from the request and stores it in the database, probably for future use. This is usually done by placing the input into a database, but no vulnerability occurs at the point where the data is stored. Later, when handling different HTTP requests, the application retrieves the stored data and incorporates into an SQL query in a safe way. For this reason, second order SQL is also known as stored SQL injection. Coming into the database, SQL injection in different contexts. WAFs. With coded by server side before passed into the SQL query. In the previous labs, you used the query string object in your malicious payload. However, you want to perform SQL injection attacks by using controllable input that is processed. Okay, for example, so if the web server takes an input as JSON or XML, you could try to use SQL injection. This difference may for different ways for it to obfuscate attacks that are otherwise blocked due to WAFs
defense mechanisms. Weak implementation often look for some common injection keywords within the requests, so you may be able to bypass these filters by encoding or escaping some characters in the prohibited keywords. For example, in the following XML-based SQL uses an XML escape sequence to encode the S character. So this is an XML escape sequence. Is this an XML thing? Like why would this attack work? Because of like XML parser. Yeah. So this vulnerability basically happens because the uh, not because this gets inputted into the database. No, this XML parser that will read this code will turn this into S, and that will basically make it vulnerable. Am I not logged in? My account. Oh shoot, I'm not logged in. Like this is how cool Portswigger is. Like they literally make the material free. Like you can go in and read. This is so cool. This is why I respect them so much. They don't chase like hack the try hack me, like try hack me chases like asks you for $10 for you to see a fucking vulnerable VM. None of that shit here. It's all free. And if you want to do the labs, you have to make an account. If you don't want account, you can just read the vulnerabilities themselves. This is so cool. So, okay. SQL um, uh, we have uh, union attacks, we have blind SQL injection. What else do we have? We have first order SQL attacks and second order SQL attacks. And we can have SQL injections in different contexts like JSON or XML. Okay, now let's just read about some SQL injections in real life, like CVEs. are common vulnerabilities and exposures, which list vulnerabilities that have been disclosed and made public. ID continue. No, yeah. Vulnerability. The most recent one is a SQL injection vulnerability identified in the SAML response. What the hell is SAML? SAML is a security assertion markup language, an alpha signer that enables single sign-on, allowing you to sign in once and access multiple times. SAML SSO authentication. Tries to access app generates SAML request. Okay, whatever. No, not AI mode. No. Everything is so AI these days. Even Burp has an AI agent, which is a little bit crazy, if you ask me. But whatever. Yeah. Let's go to, you know what? Let's go to exploit DB, because just CVs don't really tell you anything. Java API, SQL, remote code execution. Like remote exploit DB, like I will actually show you SQL injection. Will actually show you the exploits. Big Ant, Gandia, V. This is all 2025, so a lot of injections have been detected in 2025. Kite, Smart Manager, Post Authenticating to the SQL, WooCommerce, whatever it is, Gandia, Integra, Total, Big Ant, Zabbix. I think Zabbix is a... What is Zabbix? Enterprise open source observability solution. What? Yeah, monitor IT infrastructure such as networks, Zabbix. And they found an SQL injection here. Author, Barata, okay. Zabbix, okay. Yeah. Check. So yeah, this is an exploit. So this is a web exploit. So requests library is used to make web requests, and argparse is used to run this program itself. You want to give it some flags like target, username, password. So you need to give it username and password, which makes it an authenticated attack probably. And target required true, help API URL, check for CVE. Oh, this is CVE 2024. Okay. So URL, target, you strip out those stuff, and API. So this is the vulnerable endpoint, JSON RPC.php. Let's Google this. Yeah, Zabbix. Obviously Zabbix is the one. XML remote procedure call, I guess. Is a specific file commonly associated with the Zabbix system endpoint for JSON RPC API. This is a remote procedural call protocol that uses JSON for data encoding. It's a lightweight. It's a file located in Zabbix frontend directory, acts as a gateway for all API requests. When you make an API call to Zabbix, your request is sent to the specific file, which then processes the JSON RPC request and interacts with the Zabbix server to perform the requested action or retrieve data. Wow,
This is pretty interesting. So this API file, this is a PHP code that when your front end it's a gateway between front end and back end probably. So when you make a request to Zabbix, you like this file processes the JSON RPC request and interacts with the Zabbix server. So you talk through Zabbix server through this file, and this file has SQL injection. This is pretty important. Login data, JSON RPC2, user login. This is just a string, right? Nothing important. ID equals 1. I'm not sure why this has to equal 1, but okay, like try. Main. So we have a huge main block. If else except. Oh yeah, they also asked me in the Java interview, they asked me about try catch logic in Java. Login response. So you make a request on the URL to login, given the login data and given the headers. What is its headers? Yeah, application JSON. You're sending it JSON. So this is gonna be JSON, I think. Yeah, JSON login data. Post request on the login URL. No, not login URL, JSON RPC URL. And you give it username and password. From the response, raise for status. I'm not sure what this is doing. Yeah, like everything I Google is actually an AI thing that comes up. Python's request library response raise is a method that checks HTTP status code. Raise for status. Okay, it just looks at the status from the request and raises an exception if it was 400 response. So from the response, you parse it as a JSON data and get the result. So you send an username and password and then get the token back. And using this token, then you can make another request, which is SQLi vulnerable. JSON RPC 2.0 method user get. Okay. Parameters select role ID, name, type, read only, and select read only and select sleep. Yeah. Check. So for users 1 and 2, you're gonna make this you're gonna get the freaking yeah, you basically make the database sleep for 5 seconds. Test response post data. If error in test response dot text not vulnerable. So usually when you send a data like this, you should get some kind of error back if the website is checking it, but no. In this case, you just get your friggin' thing. Like this is, I would say this is a pretty simple SQL injection to find. And this is not verified. What's EDB? Oh, exploit database. Inversion community, calendar view PHP. Yeah, a lot of those SQL injections and cross-site scriptings are very vulnerable in PHP code because, like, yeah, why is PHP so vulnerable to SQL? So here you don't actually have a exploit script, you just have a description. Vulnerability is in applications, calendar, modules, front, calendar, view PHP script. Specifically in the view search method. So there's a search method. User input passed through the location request parameter is not properly sanitized before being used to construct an SQL query. This can be exploited by remote or authenticated attackers to, for example, read sensitive data from the database through Boolean-based SQL injection attacks. Boolean-based attacks. Okay, successful exploitation of this vulnerability requires calendar application to be installed and the geolocation feature like Google Maps to be configured. SQL vulnerability in Vision Community 4 might lead an admin to admin account takeover and RC attacks by presenting admin passwords. Here, this is a bigger script, as you can see, and I think this is kind of horrible. The check redirect. I think doing bug bounty would be really interesting right now. Why not? This is a way of making money, so why not? Especially new code is added to the projects a lot, and I could make some money doing this basically. Yeah. So well, that's a lot. That's a lot. Let me do, you know what? Like this. And I'll pull up my notes. My notes. Notes. Oh, did I close that thing? Oh, that's bad. InVision. So this was verified. This is not a script though. Which one was it? Oh, WordPress. Let's see these exploits. Yeah, this is a long script also. Yeah, main. So what happens in main? Parsing happens. A lot of argument parsing happens in main. args main. Which args are here? URL, mode, query for custom query, and D help debug output. Debug, I don't know, debug. Yeah, that's one thing that main function is doing. Verify target. No, here. Verify target. So URL, if not parsed URL scheme, URL equals this, ends with, yeah. Basically, this just parse URL. HTTP xxx.x. URLs like this. Okay. Then what happens? Verify target. If not, test connection. So we test connection. And we have a check vulnerability function. So just check. Then we have an option to just check. Modes. Then we have modes. Just modes of like just check. Admin details. URL and debug. Custom, if no args. Query, custom mode requires an SQL query. Let's exit one. Custom data. Let's go and see check vulnerability function. Check vulnerability. Checking that the target is vulnerable. Extract data. So extract data function is really important. Database debug. Results equals. Yeah, we have this big payload. We have this big payload here. And extract value, concat, source. Like this payload, finding out this payload is the hard part. You could try to use SQL map. Actually, let's just ask, does this string look SQL map generated? So in admin Ajax, you're gonna send this payload. If debug, requesting debug, request get target URL, requesting. Oh, just debug just gives you what the script is doing and where the script is. Decoded text, HTML response text. You get the text, match error pattern and you decode it. You decode the text, error pattern is here. XPath, syntax error, research, match group this, debug this, that, the other thing, extracted data, this match group 1, error pattern. So I don't like this. Check vulnerability, extract admin details, extract admin details. Yeah. So you just select user. So you just send the payload. What's left? Extract custom data. Anyway, that's a lot of things. What I don't like is that we have a class. We don't really have a class. We have a class, don't we? Yeah, it just functions. I guess that's okay. How to make this script more
Yeah, I guess the main thing is mm, is this, like, finding this is actually hard. Your SQL query is also inputted here. Classic error, concat, place order. Yeah. This string is the most important. This is the actual payload that gives us the data. Yeah. So yeah. I think we have looked at a couple of SQL injections right now. Yeah, what else? What else? Path traversal. This is a vulnerability which gives you ability to see different paths inside the web server. Command injection, just inject commands, race conditions. This could be really interesting. And SSRF, no SQL injection. Oh, they all kind of look like each other. SQL injection and other stuff is pretty similar to each other. We just try to send something malicious to the web server and it not responding correctly. Client-side topics, XSS, is a little bit different thing. CSRF is a important thing. Also, WebSockets, DOM vulnerabilities. I think there might be. Oh, there isn't really an OAuth. JVT attacks. OAuth, yeah. Oath. Oath. While browsing the web, you have almost certainly come across the sites that let you log in using social media accounts. The chances are that this is a feature built using OAuth framework. Oath is highly interesting for attackers because it is both extremely common and inherently prone to implementation mistakes. That's important. This can result in a number of vulnerabilities, allowing attackers to obtain sensitive data and potentially bypass authentication completely. In this section, we'll teach how to identify and exploit some of the key vulnerabilities found in it. Don't worry if you're not familiar with Oath. We provided plenty of background information to help you understand the key concepts. Also expose some vulnerabilities in Oath, OpenID, Connect extension. Finally, we'll include some guidance on how to protect your own applications. What's Auth? How does Auth? Client application, resource owner, Auth service provider. Client application requests access to a subset of used data, specifying which grant type they want to use or what kind of access they want. The user is prompted to log in to the Auth and explicitly give their consent for the request access. The client application receives a unique access token that proves they have permission from the user and to access the requested. Exactly how this happens varies depending on the grant type. The client application uses this access tokens to make API calls, fetching the relevant data from the resource server. Before learning how Auth is used for authentication, it's important to understand fundamentals of this Auth process. If you're completely new to Auth, we recommend familiarizing yourself with the details of both grant types before reading further. All right, I'm not there, but implicit flow. User chooses the option to log in as their social media account. The client application then uses the social media site's Auth service to request access to some data that it can use to identify the user. This could be the email address, Yeah. After receiving access token, the client application requests this data from the resource server, typically from a dedicated user info endpoint. Once it has received the data, the client application uses it in place of a username to log user in. The access token that is received from the authenticator is often used instead of traditional password. You can see a simple example of how this looks like in the following lab. You just complete the login, the social media option, but while proxying traffic through Burp, then start a series of auth interactions. In the proxy history, you can log in winner Peter. Note that this page deliberately will teach you how to exploit this later. Identifying auth authentication, recognizing when an application is using auth authentication is straightforward. If you say an absolute, then it's authentication. Most reliable way to identify auth is to proxy your traffic through Burp. Regardless of which auth grant type is being used, the first request of the flow will always be the request of the authorization endpoint containing number of query parameters that are used specifically for auth. Keep an eye for client ID, redirect URI, So a client clicks login, and the front end will send request to, I don't know, the authentication server. Recon, so basic recon, well-known server, OpenID configuration. You look for GET requests. Once you know the hostname of the authorization server, you should all try sending a GET request to this. Return a JSON configuration file containing key information such as details of additional features. Exploiting client application as well as in this section, we will show how to exploit some of the most common vulnerabilities in both of these contexts. Vulnerabilities in the client application, improper implementation of implicit grant type float CSR protection. Damn. Client application will often use a reputable, battle-hardened auth service that is well protected against well-known exploits. However, their own side of the implementation may be less secure. As we already mentioned, all specific is loosely defined. This is especially true with regards to implementation of the client application. There are a lot of moving parts in the auth flow with many optional parameters, configured settings. There are plenty of scope of misconfigurations, improper grant type. Due to the dangers introduced by sending access tokens via browser, the implicit grant type is mainly recommended for single-page applications. However, it is also often used in classic server web applications that flow. Access token is sent from the service to the client's application via user's browser as URL fragment. The client application that accesses the token uses JavaScript. The trouble is, if the application wants to maintain the session after the user closes the page to store the current user data somewhere. To solve this problem, client application will often submit this data to the server in a post request and then assign the user session cookie, effectively logging them in. This request is roughly equivalent to the form submission request that might be sent as a part of a classic password-based login. However, in scenarios where it doesn't have any secrets or passwords to compare with the submitted data, which means that it is implicitly trusted. In the implicit flow, the post request is exposed to attackers via their browser. As a result, this behavior can lead to a serious vulnerability if the client application doesn't properly check that the access token matches the other data in the request. In this case, the attacker can simply change the parameters sent to the site to impersonate any user. This is flow CSRF.
Yeah, I'm too tired for this stuff right now. I need to read this and research it, and I'll come back later with them. Yeah, damn. This is JVT attacks. Host header. Yeah, now let's just read over some XSS. Vulnerabilities reflected, stored DOM-based, client-side code rather than server-side code. CSRF. Yeah. I guess to do a bug bounty, you need a target. Once you choose the target, then you need to build tooling to do recon. After doing the recon, like what kind of vulnerabilities are you aiming for? Are you aiming for SQL injection? You need to do tools that automatically try for doing SQL injection. And in the beginning, you might not find it, but at some point, you will probably, because a new code will add to the program and so on. And yeah, basically, you need a lot of scripts to test automatically and not waste a lot of time yourself. And you look for like auth authentication. You would you will need to create automating scripts, automated scripts that would look for authentication usage on the website, and then probably try to do it manually in terms of oath, because like one web app will have one oath, or maybe three oaths if they have different types of auth providers, like Google, GitHub, but that's not much.
Uh, Graph API vulnerabilities. I don't know. Yeah, Graph API vulnerabilities. You do some scripts that try to find, not exploit the whole thing, but try to find if GraphQL is used and if GraphQL might have some vulnerabilities. And then if those scripts say, yes, we found something, then you go in and do it manually. Same would be on server-side template injection. You try to do it. You try to automate recon and discovery, and if you find something, then you attack. And doing this could be really interesting in a way, but it's a lot of work. Basically, you would need to choose a target and spend some time with it. Spend some time with the target. Yeah, we could go on to a HackerOne.com and see what vulnerabilities are. Bug bounty. The disclosures. Programmatic pen tests. Code review. Response BDP solutions partners. They have a leaderboard here. So there's this guy Nahamsek, and I think he makes a lot of money there. Hacker, content creator. Yeah, like you would basically Visor. Oh, this guy has a lot of impact. Damn. Any reposts yet? Valid close. 2 thanks. Damn, nothing is. So he found insecure deserialization, patient, all badges. I might try doing this, man. This looks fun. I mean, all the knowledge of information security and not use it, I might try doing this. This is fun. But I think it would be boring, like looking at the targets and scripts. It would be boring as hell. He's on the back road also. Oh, the guy is Chinese, obviously. Obviously, you know. Top hacker from China. Such a deal. Yeah. Uh, for today's chat, for today's chit chat, this was it. Um, this was really it for today.